Hello and welcome again to Safety Short Series. Today we'll be posting 26th video of the series and today's topic is the hazard communication. Question comes that what hazard communication is? Working in any size, style or storage organization, you are exposed to various hazards. What are hazards? Yes, a thing or object or anything that possesses a strength or has a potential to cause harm. Because based on the definition, this is the reason why it becomes very important to be communicated for inherent dangers and possible dangers, how it can cause you harm. This comes under hazard communication. Out of all the hazard, exposure to hazardous chemical at work is considered one of the most common, and today we are going to talk about this. But basic fact, let's simplify it. So where to start? Now OSHA's hazard communication standard 29 CFR 1910-1200 will help you identify the hazards of those materials and how to use them safely. Let us understand where it started. Your employer must also teach you about protective measures when working with hazardous chemicals. When you have this important information, you will be able to take steps to protect yourself from the negative effect caused by accidental exposures. Now, OSHA's Hazard Communication Standard HCS requires employers and manufacturers to develop and distribute chemical information as described. First, chemical manufacturers and importers must clarify the hazards of the chemical they produced or import and prepare labels and safety data sheets to convey the hazard information to their downstream customers. Correct? So this comes to manufacturers and importers. When it comes from manufacturer importer, it comes to whom? It comes to the employer with classified hazardous chemicals in their workplace must have labels and safety data sheets for their exposed workers and trained workers to safely handle those chemicals. Furthermore, employers who do not produce or import chemicals need to only focus on those parts of this rule that deals with establishing a workplace program and communicating information to their workers. So these are basic things. Now, as mentioned, the employer are required to provide information about hazardous chemical employee are exposed to by means of how it can be communicated. It will be communicated by a hazard communication program which is called HCP, labels and other forms of warning, safety data sheets and information and training. Now all the information was required to be systematic and uniform. So there was a need to harmonize or unify it. That means same everywhere. So there was a need that existed. Hence, now globally a system exists which is known as global harmonization process or globally harmonized system of classification of labels of chemicals known as GHS. Now, hazard communication system, that is HCS, is now aligned with United States GHS system, basically developed by US for their business, but safety, we accept all safety practices best globally, and hence we must understand the benefits and how we can adopt it as well. The GHS addresses classification of chemicals by types of hazard and possesses harmonized hazard communication elements including labels and safety data sheets. Now it ensures that information on physical, chemical, hazard and toxicity are available in order to enhance the protection of health and environment during chemical handling, transportation and use. The GHS, that is Globally Harmonized Signage System or GHS system, provides Mainly benefits include providing common and coherent approach to classifying chemicals and communicating hazardous information on labels and safety data sheets, improving quality and consistency of hazard information in workplace, helping reduce trade barriers, productivity improvement for American businesses that regularly handle, store and use classified hazardous chemical, and provide basically cost saving for the business that periodically updates safety data sheets and labels for classified chemicals. So this was primarily focusing or being done by American business personnel, and this was prevalent in US as well. Correct. So this started from US. Now mostly we do read about it, but are not aware how to implement it. Or to simplify, as we said, like understand how hazardous substances or chemical can be classified. So OSHA has defined the term substance as chemical element and their components in the natural state is obtained by any production process. Now, including any activity necessary to preserve the stability of the product and any impurities deriving from the process used, but excluding any solvent which may be separated without affecting the stability of the substance and changing its composition. Confusing, isn't it? Yes. So, it is so what to do. So, let's take it like this. For the purpose of hazard communication system, HCS, that is hazard communication system, a hazardous chemical means any chemical which is classified as physical hazard or a health hazard or a simple expedient or pyrophoric gases or hazardous, not otherwise classified. Now let's talk about these four first, in which you will easily be able to categorize. Starting with the physical hazard. What is physical hazard? So chemicals that are classified or posing hazardous effect that will affect you physically. Now physical hazard includes explosive, flammables, that is gases, aerosol, liquids or solid, oxidizers, liquid, solid or gas, self-reactive pyrophoric liquid or solids, self-heating organic peroxides, corrosive to metal, gas under pressure, or in contact with water emits flammable gas. So the criteria for determining whether the chemical is classified as physical hazard are detailed in Appendix B to 1910.1200, that is physical criteria. These are OSHA standard. So you can refer those standards, which is and get more information on this. So this is how it is classified. So when you list it down, you can search this Appendix B of 1910.1200 physical criteria. So you'll get how physically you can categorize the chemicals. With the physical hazard. So what are the chemicals that are coming under physical hazard and what are the categories? The second criteria is health hazard. A chemical which is classified under health hazard means it will affect your health. This includes health effect by acute toxicity, any route of exposure, skin corrosion or irritation, series of serious eye damage or eye irritation, respiratory or skin sanitizations, germ cell or carcinogenic or reproductive toxicity, specific targeted organ toxicity, single repeated exposure or aspiration hazard. So the criteria that determines whether the chemical is classified as health hazard are also determined in 1910.1200 Appendix A for health hazard criteria. The third criteria is simple aspirate exfiscent. And what are these? Is a substance or a mixture that displaces oxygen. So expirant are what? So these are basically mixtures that displaces oxygen in the ambient atmosphere and thus causes oxygen deprivedness or deprivation in those who are exposed, now leading to unconsciousness and death. Now, basically, it means what? Suffocation, right? So, are particularly concerned with enclosed spaces where they cannot dissipate. So, what are these gases? So, these examples are nitrogen, helium, neon, argon, krypton, xenon. So, the criteria for determining their chemical is classified under health hazard are detailed in 1910-1200 Appendix A, again in health hazard criteria. Correct? So these are suffocating. Now comes the pyrophoric gases, means a chemical in gaseous state that will ignite spontaneously at air at a temperature of 130 degree Fahrenheit or 54 degrees Celsius or below. So they are very commonly used as processor gases in semiconductor industries and have been, cause of number of deadly incidents. So what are the examples of it? Silane, germanium, arsenane, phosphane, dibrorin. So all these are used, in semiconductor industries. So for more information, you can visit the pyrophoric gases. You can see OSHA's flammable explosive pyrophoric gases. So when you search for OSHA's flammable explosive pyrophoric gases, you will get the information from this also. Correct? Now, let us discuss about the forms of hazardous chemical. Now, you might think that the chemicals which apply to the rule are those in liquid, gas, or a particular particulate form. Correct? But the standards definition of chemical is much broader than commonly used. According to HCS, that is Hazard Communication System, chemicals that apply may exist in one or many forms. So suppose we say dust. So what are dust? Dust are finely deprived particles like wood dust, right? Now what are fumes? So fumes are smaller particles or usually formed when solid metal is heated and vaporized and then condenses as tiny particles. What are fibers? So fibers are similar to dust but are of elongated shape like asbestos fiber or fiberglass. What are mists? So mists are basically liquid droplets that have been sprayed into the atmosphere. Vapors are gases from when liquid evaporates. Correct. So and what are gases? So gases are substances that are normally airborne at room temperature. The vapor is the gaseous phase of the substance, which is normally in liquid or a solid state at room temperature. What are solids such as metal, treated wood or plastic, and liquids the most common form in the workplace. So what is chemical effect? Correct. So the effect chemical have on various organs of human body depends on several important factors. So what are those factors? The form of chemical. Is the chemical in which state? That means is it in solid state, is it in liquid state, is it in gas state? So which state? So when you know this, you will be easily able to identify that in what will be the next phase or what will be the next stage it can convert it to. Correct? Then comes the route of entry. When you know the state, then you can definitely discuss on the route of entry part or how the chemical contacts the body. Is it injected, inhaled, absorbed or injected? Correct? Ingestion happens or injection is happening. So what is happening? Correct? Then comes the dose or the amount the body receives. So how much chemical makes its ways into the body is also to be known. And finally the toxicity. So how poisonous is the chemical? So basically when you are studying chemical effect, you must understand that in what form the chemical is there, from where it can enter your body, what will be the route of entry, what will be the dosage which will be lethal or which will be harmful for you, what is the toxicity of, means how much poisonous the chemical is. And then we mentioned a term here, route of entry. So another important task when assigning the work place or chemical hazard is to determine the routes of entry. The chemical may take, if we know the route of entry, we can then determine appropriate engineering, administrative, and PP, or eliminate or reduce the exposure. So the four common route of entry are: ingestion. So do we eat or drink it? Inhalation. Do we breathe it? This is the most common route of entry. So basically inhalation, when we breathe something, so that is the most common route of entry. Then comes absorption. Does it passes through skin, eye, or membranes? So absorption is there. And finally, injection. So does it enter through puncture or cuts? Correct. So now when all the information is known, we start with the label. The label part. So there are various systems available for labeling, but principally we must know which container requires label. So let's talk about the type of container and labels first. So container labels can be, very effective method of communication. The physical and health hazard of chemical can be in workplace. The information on the container label will vary depending on the type of container it is and how it is used. So we will talk about labeling required for each four types of container listed. So what is the first container type? That is the shipped or primary containers. So basically in which the labels shipped to manufacturers or distributors is the very first primary container, from where so the material is coming to you or is being transported. So that is called primary container. Now comes workplace or secondary container. So what are secondary container? Label employers make for their own containers. So that are secondary containers. Correct. So it has been shipped in one container, then it has been transferred to your store container. So that is one. Now in this there are two parts. So workplace secondary containers, there is stationary container also. So labels on large or fixed or non-mobile storage tank, containers or bins. Correct. So that is stationary container. And finally it comes to portable containers. So no labels are required as long as the chemical is immediately used. So if the chemical is not immediately used, you are required to label it. If you are not keeping the chemical and it is being used immediately, then you don't need to keep the label. Correct? So those type of containers are called portable containers. Now let's define label, how we can do it. So primary, secondary and stationary container, based on approach, we can prepare labels for hazard communication, keeping 6 things in mind. Now these can be referred as positive ID or hazard communication label for chemicals. So what are the guidelines we are considering? We are considering hazard communication system and globally harmonized system of classification of labeling of chemicals known as GHS. So let us talk about these 6 points. So first point is product identifier. This should include the chemical. So how you will make the positive ID or the label. So the very first point is product identifier. So that will be what? So the product identifier should include the chemical identity of the system, that is name or formula. The second point is signal word. So what are signal words? So signal word in GHS are danger and warning. So danger is for more severe hazard category based on its nature of hazard, and mainly all are dangerous, but in which category it lies. Say it's it has an acute effect on human, so danger, and say you would warn about its effect, so warning, situation or caution. Now this depends which type of chemical it is holding, and you intend to warn about its important nature. So that comes under the signal word. So it can be danger, warning, caution, like that. Correct. Now comes hazard statement. This is phrase assigned to a hazardous class and category that describes the nature of hazardous product and the degree of hazard. Then comes pictogram. So this part is clear, that hazardous statement. So hazardous statement is basically a phrase assigned to hazardous class or category Like we have 1, 2, 3. Now there are different systems, you can use. So accordingly, you can just put a picture, you can put diamond, you can put, the nomenclature that, okay, this is the hazardous statement for this, how it is hazardous, whether it is at what degree, whether it will affect you physically, whether it will affect you, health-wise, or whether it will, be chronic or something like that. So then comes the pictogram. Now these include symbol plus other elements such as border, background, pattern, or color. They convey specific information. Now this can be from GHS category. It's very easy when you refer the safety data sheet, you will easily be able to keep it. So from the pictogram can be taken from there. Now comes the precautionary statement. So these are phrases that describes, recommend measures to minimize, to prevent adverse effect resulting from the exposure of hazardous products. So that can be, information of, first aid. So what are the precautionary statement? So in case it leaks, in case the exposure happens, in case, you are being exposed to it. So what are the precautionary statement? There it comes, and you can mention in the 5th column. The 6th column comes to supplier identification or handling instruction. Now, this contains name, address, telephone number of the manufacturer and supplier, and the substance or mixtures. Or you can, have handling instruction given like PPE, how to material will be and material will be handled, like inlet and outlet, and how sometimes PPE to be used in case of manual handling. Correct. So this is how all things are and how you can list it down. So hope we were able to give you as much information on hazard communication. Thank you everyone for your support. So like I said, Safety Short is a series focusing on short safety videos. Thank you for all your support. Keep liking and sharing, and do not forget to subscribe for our motivation. We'll keep on posting more such videos. Till then, be connected and stay safe. Thank you, friends.